Hey guys, welcome to the stream. This is Arriagada coming to you live from the WYNDHAM Garden Inn here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. We're here today for a community meeting for Roseau River Anishinabe First Nation. Today they're discussing cows and plows claims update. Amongst the things they're going to be talking about is treaty annuities, treaty land expansion, agricultural and treaty benefits, capital and revenue accounts management.
The community members who couldn't make it today, so that's why we have it streamed live. And you can watch the video after. We'll give you the link. It's on our Roseau River First Nation Facebook group. You will go there and watch it again if you missed something or you want something repeated. So forth. So here's Mr. Terrence Nelson.
Okay, which we have today with us one of the best claims lawyers in the country. No one gets shy of me saying that, but he doesn't have any hair left anymore. But Stephen came in yesterday from Saskatoon. He works with another lawyer named Webb. And Stephen is well known in Indian country for his land claims settlements. He settled the 1903 surrender for us, the Roseau River. It takes a while for all these settlements to take place. Stephen is well versed in land claims, and some of them are pretty substantial. Some people say we shouldn't get into settlements, that the system is rigged and everything else. But the reality is that, we were elected to try and move things forward. It's an imperfect system, and Stephen will be one of the first ones to tell you that. But some of the land claims, he settled about 40 land claims. It's not easy to get a guy like this that be in working with Roseau River. He bought to us Jones Homes and Associates, one of the primary research groups around. When they do research, they do it phenomenally well. And they did, Jones Homes and Associates came to Roseau River, interviewed a lot of elders, and they did some of the research. So Stephen is here today to answer your questions. So basically make a presentation where he's at. Some of the ones that he didn't work on the Orange settlement. Orange settlement was in Saskatchewan was $600 million. So there is a lot of things being settled. There are 633 First Nations across Canada. And the government of Canada moves ahead at a snail's pace. The treaty was done in 1871. So it hasn't, a lot of the treaty benefits have not been completed. It's now 153 years later, since 1871. And people ask us, they said, well, where's the benefits for treaty? And people come and ask us, they say, well, yesterday it was about 15 people, talking about housing. One of them said, I need money for get my house and move forward, get my apartment. We spent about an hour with them and didn't get it settled. But the thing is, that's what people are asking us. They're asking us, every day we get requests for food. We get requests for repairs on houses. We have about 200 on reserve. So each of these houses, every house, a three-bedroom house today, or when we built it, it was built, it's about $350,000 per house. So you can see very clearly when you're building, when you have 220 houses, what the cost was. And so if we're going to build houses, we're going to do, observe people, do anything like that, we have to settle claims. We have to bring in money. If you don't bring in money, people council just sit at the office and basically do nothing. That's not what we were elected to do. We were elected to bring in money. This is Stephen Ploughs. Said he settled about 40 claims. He's going to do a presentation. It's good to have a little bit of respect for him when he makes his presentation. As soon as he's finished his presentation, like I said, he did 40 different claims. So he's been in a whole lot of different nations. And a lot of them have had the same questions you have. A lot of them have been pretty hard to get them to the point where they can settle. It's not an easy system. The government of Canada does not jump into this quickly or to do what they're supposed to do. But they have 633 First Nations to choose from. Those ones that they will work with are the ones that are come forward. Again, not a perfect system, but this is what we're presenting to you. Stephen here has a number of claims that he's working for us on. So we'd like to present that. And like I said, this is one of the finest lawyers in the country. I'd like you to give him you to make the presentation.
Hopefully this mic is working. Can you all hear me? Good. Nice to see so many people out. I want to thank the elder for the prayer and thank Terry for the kind words. I have been around for a while. I think I'm in my 35th year of being a lawyer. I can't believe that I'm saying that. How life goes by so fast. I do have some experience with you guys, as Terry has said. I've helped you guys with the 1903 surrender settlement. So I know quite a bit about your history. I know quite a bit about the members. I've sat in these, or stood and presented in these kinds of meetings with your community many times. We were out at the reserve yesterday, and you're getting the exact same presentation that they got. There was a number of questions, and I'm happy to answer any question you have. This presentation isn't very long. It's just an update presentation. And so hopefully after that, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. You also have my contact information. It's on the information that's been provided to you. You also have Adam's contact information. Either of us would be happy to answer any of your questions. I do note, though, on this sheet, if you have it, my email address is wrong. It's not Hotmail, it's Outlook, so don't send it to Hotmail. You won't get a response. It'll likely bounce back. So it's smpillipo@outlook.com. And you also have my phone number, and I'll respond to any question that comes from any member about any of these specific claims that we're talking about. So Adam and I work together. We don't work in the same law firm. I used to work with Adam at W Law, but I'm no longer working out of W Law. I'm working out of my house. I work out of my basement. This is me. When you phone SMP Law, you're going to get me and nobody else because I work on my own. I've done a lot of work in the specific claims area with a lot of different First Nations. I've done work in Ontario. I've done work in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and I'm doing some work now in British Columbia. I'm allowed to do that under the rules from the Law Society because we have a mobility agreement. I'm licensed in Saskatchewan. I work out of Saskatoon, but I'm allowed to move from province to province to do work with legal work with other in different provinces. Now, we had a bit of a problem with this yesterday working. I don't know why my computer doesn't want to work, but okay. So, I think I went a little too far here. So, Adam and I have been retained by Roseau River to work on a number of specific claims. In 4 of them, there's really possibly 5 claims here. The agricultural benefits claim, and we're going to talk about that. That's the first one that has been moved forward. The capital and revenue account mismanagement claim, the treaty annuities claim, and a treaty land expansion claim. And I'm going to go through each one of those with you, and we'll give you an update on them. So the agriculture benefits claim, this claim relates to the Crown's failure to fulfill the treaty agricultural benefits owed to the First Nation under the terms of Treaty 1. It's sometimes referred to as cows and ploughs, but we label it as agricultural treaty benefits claim. There's a number of benefits that were promised when the Treaty 1 First Nations Indians entered into Treaty 1 in 1871. And one of the big issues, or one of the big promises, was agriculture. That was the whole idea of treaty, was to move the Indians away from the nomadic hunting, trapping, gathering lifestyle to a more sedentary lifestyle and become farmers, agriculture. There's a number of items that were promised to be given to the First Nations, the Indians at the time, agriculture implements, tools, buggies, farm animals, livestock, seed to plant, and so on and so forth. What we found out is that many of these benefits were never provided. There's quite a bit of a history to these types of claims. They started in the Treaty 8 area. The Treaty 8 First Nations were the first ones to bring these claims forward, and they've settled their agricultural benefits claims with Canada. I think all of the Treaty 8 First Nations have done that. They're now moving into Treaty 4 and 6 and a little bit into Treaty 5 area. There's been no settlement yet in Treaty 1 area. You may be the first one as we move forward, okay? So right now, we have no idea how Canada is going to respond to these types of claims in the Treaty 1 area, okay? We started out when we were retained, as Councillor Nelson has indicated, we started out with retaining Joan Holmes and Associates. We asked them to do a historical research and provide a report outlining, the specifics of Treaty 1, what was promised, and more importantly, what was provided to Roseau in terms of these agricultural benefits. As it found out, and we suspected, many of the benefits were not provided. You guys, in fact, Treaty 1, because you were the first treaty number treaty that was entered into, you were pretty much guinea pigs at the time, and the government just totally did not fulfill its obligations in many ways. Now, this claim only relates to agricultural benefits. It's not talking about anything else in Treaty 1, okay? I know there's been questions that have been asked, well, if we do this, are we going to lose our treaty? Well, you're not, okay? This is only going to address those agricultural benefits that should have been provided that weren't, okay? So we got this research report from Joan Holmes and Associates, and Adam and I prepared a claim submission, and it was approved by the council, and it's been submitted to Canada for processing under the specific claims policy. And there was also a question that came, well, do we have to go under the specific claims policy? And no, you don't. You know, you don't want to follow this policy. That's up to you. This is the best option, in my opinion, for you to follow. But I mean, there are differences. We heard it yesterday at the reserve, and that's fair enough. You can go to court if you want, or if you want to go in a different way, you can do that. I know this process. I understand this process. I know how it works, and I've been successful following this process. Is it a perfect process? It's not. Okay? There's still too much power and control in Canada's hands. That has been corrected a little bit with the Specific Claims Tribunal Act, but nonetheless, it is there. So when you submit a claim under the Specific Claims Policy, Canada requires the claim to meet certain minimum standards. You know, it has to have proper research done. It has to have the supporting documents. They have to be in legible form, and if they're not, then they have to be transcribed. There has to be indication of where the research was done. There has to be an indication of, what documents are being relied upon. And then there has to be a claim submission prepared that sets out the claims that are being made by the First Nation. So we had to do this. I've done this many times. I've drafted many specific claims. And I knew we would meet the minimum standards because I know what needs to be done, and we did. The claim was actually first sent into Canada on October 4th or October 6th last year. Canada then, under the specific claims policy, has 6 months to determine whether the claim meets the minimum standards. It did, as I said, and then once they determine that, they fought what they call file the claim. The claim was deemed filed on March 4th of this year. Canada now has until, under their policy, they have 3 years to respond. It's actually not under their policy, it's under the Specific Claims Tribunals Act. They have 3 years to respond and to notify Roseau if the minister is prepared to accept the claim for negotiation. Now, I fully expect that'll happen. When that'll happen, it can happen sooner, but in my experience, it generally takes Canada 3 years to respond, but they do have an expedited process for these types of claims in place right now, so hopefully it'll be sooner, but there's no guarantee, okay? So you can expect there'll be a response no later than that date, but hopefully that, I've actually had claims that the response went beyond that date. But once you hit that 3 year period, you have the right to file your claim, a declaration of claim with the Specific Claims Tribunal if you want. That'll be something that, time will tell as we go through it. I can't tell you here today, what's the amount. There's been claims that have been settled. Terry mentioned one. In Saskatchewan, L'Orange, 600 million. I don't know where you're at. What I can tell you is this, because Adam and I had a call. We're working with other First Nations on these types of claims. We are working with the First Nation in Treaty 6, and we had a call last Friday with the people from the Specific Claims Branch regarding their claim. I did raise your claim with them, but that's why I know there's been no Treaty 1 First Nation that has settled this type of claim yet. But what we know is this. There was 2 First Nations that had gone through the process, filed their specific claims. It was rejected. Their claims were rejected by Canada, and they filed a declaration of claim with the Specific Claims Tribunal. They were going through that process with Canada, and these 2 First Nations, Sunchild in Treaty 6 in Alberta and Kiniston in Treaty 4 in Saskatchewan, agreed to go to mediation. So Canada agreed to this. They went to mediation. They hired a mediator. They did some work in terms of they hired a consultant by the name of Bob Thompson. And I know Mr. Thompson, I've worked with him before. He's a very good agrologist. He did a report for the parties that what I understand, I have not seen the report, so I'm going a little bit from hearsay when I'm talking about this, but what we're told this report does is calculate what is the present day value of those agricultural benefits that you should have received. So the plow, the cow, the animals, whatever it was. Now, Treaty 6 and Treaty 4 are a little different than Treaty 1, but nonetheless, that's what that report did. The mediator issued a report, and what the mediator said is that he set out a formula. In his view, this formula should be used to settle these types of claims in Treaty 4 and Treaty 6, and as I understand, Canada is also applying it in Treaty 5. And that's kind of important because Treaty 5 is similar to Treaty 1 in terms of the amount of land that was provided, the 160 acres per family of 5, as opposed to the 640 acres per family of 5 under Treaty 4 and 6. The formula that was recommended was to take 1/3 of of a First Nations historic population, their date of first survey population, take 1/3 of that population, take 2/3 of their current population, whatever it is on the date that they were talking about, today, it would be in your case. And then you take whatever numbers you get out of that and you multiply it by this amount determined by Mr. Thompson as the value for these agricultural benefits that he had come up with. Now, that report was done back in 2016, so it's a bit dated. In that report, he determined under Treaty 4 and Treaty 6, because they're very similar in terms of what agricultural benefits were promised, he came up with a value of $58,000. Now, that value, of course, would need to be updated if they're in those areas. I don't know what your value would be in terms of coming up with that value. And that's something that would, if we're going to follow that type of a formula. So your population numbers, you can run that formula and you can come up with an idea if we're running under that formula. I haven't done that because we have no guarantee that Canada would apply that same formula to the Treaty 1 First Nations, or whether the Treaty 1 First Nations or whether Roseau would be prepared to accept that formula in settling the claim, okay? So the first hurdle is to get the minister to accept the claim for negotiation. Failing that, then you decide whether you want to go to the specific claims tribunal or whatever else you want to do. If the minister does accept the claim for negotiation, then we go into negotiations and we try to negotiate a settlement, okay? Just like we did. It's the same process that we followed. It's a little bit different because we didn't have the specific claims tribunal when we were doing the 1903 surrender claim, but it's basically the exact same process. In the end, whatever's agreed to at the table between your chief and counsel or a negotiating team that is put in place and Canada has to be approved by the members. The chief and counsel can approve it. Only you can approve it. Okay? And what you do with those funds, and this is true for any specific claim settlement, and this is not always the case, but right now it's up to you. Canada does not get involved in what you do with the money. You guys will decide as a community what you're going to do with those settlement funds if we ever get to that point. Okay? So that claim is already in the process. It's there. It's being, it's been submitted to Canada, and we're just waiting now for Canada's response. And as I say to every community, I met with the council before our on reserve community meeting yesterday. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. So I mean, if you're the first Treaty 1 First Nation that's there, I don't know whether you are or not, then start prodding. Because as Terry said, there's a lot of First Nations in Canada, and every treaty First Nation is going to have this similar type of claim. Okay? Canada is settling them. Now, this is under the Liberal government. Who knows what's going to happen next spring or whenever it happens. Last 5 or 6 years, I've spoken to a law class at the University of Saskatchewan, and I did some work on settlements. Over the years, since it started, beginning in 1974 with the first specific claim settlement, there's been over $16 billion of settlements. Now, that doesn't include anything that happens in the courts. So, we're going to talk a little bit about the Robinson-Huron annuities claim. That was $10 billion. That's not included in that 16.
10 billion.
10 billion. Oh, did I say million? Sorry, 10 billion. The numbers just get so large. There's also a claim out of Alberta that was settled through the court process. Siksika, $1.5 billion. My research, and I heard this at other presentations, workshops that I've been at, of those settlements, about 80 to 90% of them have happened when the Liberal government's been in office. And through my career, it's been like this. Conservatives are in, very few settlements. Liberals are in, and up we go. Right now, Mr. Trudeau has been a boom for First Nations in Canada, and particularly with specific claims, because he's told his people, let's settle them. And they are settling claims at a very good clip right now. But that may not always be the case, okay? I just mentioned that because I found it very interesting when I was doing the work. The other claim that we're working on is called a trust account mismanagement claim. So under the Indian Acts, the government set up 2 accounts for First Nations, every First Nation. Every First Nation has these accounts, a capital account and a revenue, or it used to be called an interest account. And they would use these accounts to administer funds that belonged to Roseau River, from leasing your farmland. If there was, oil and gas taken out of a reserve, the money would go into one of these accounts. The expenditure of those funds, what they could be spent on, and what type of authority was required before they could be spent, was set out in the Indian Act. Okay. So what this claim is about is going back when your account, your capital account and interest revenue account were first established, and tracking all the funds that went into the account and determining what these funds were spent on. Were they spent in accordance with the terms of the Indian Act, what they could be spent on, and was the necessary authority given? In some cases, we needed the Superintendent General of Indian Affairs authority, or today the minister. Sometimes you need a governor and council approval. And in many cases, you need bank council approval. So this was kind of a brainchild of mine. I started with Cuesportslive First Nation, and I worked for them for my whole career, 35 years, and I still work for them. I went to the chief and council and I said, hey, look, I think you have a claim here. I think that if we look at it, we're going to find that Canada misspent these funds that went into your trust accounts that they were responsible to administer. And they said, okay, Stephen, go ahead. They gave me the money to hire the people I needed to hire, and I did. And we ended up Canada rejected the claim. We filed the specific claims. Canada initially rejected the claim. We were at the specific claims tribunal. We were doing the expert evidence, and finally, I think the light bulb turned on Canada. Yeah, we screwed up. And they settled that claim. That's the only claim like that that has been settled in Canada. You have the same type of claim. Probably every First Nation in Canada has the same type of claim. It's just a matter of to what extent. Now, you had some money going through your capital and revenue accounts, the 1903 surrender funds that were paid, for an example. So we looked at that. Again, Joan Holmes and Associates was retained, and they prepared a report, just like they did for Kakawistahau, and they went back and looked at both of these accounts from when they were first established till not quite the present, but going as far forward as they could with the records that they were available to get. I mean, it's pretty much today, but not quite. Under the specific claims policy, you can only come forward 15 years from the present. It's historical losses, not current day losses. Those are still stuff that would have to be addressed in a different process. But anyways, what they did is they went through your account, how much money went into these two accounts of yours, and how was the money spent. And what they did, and what we've been doing with other claims like this, is they categorized each expenditure as either it was allowed under the Indian Act and or the proper authority was given for the expenditure, or it was not allowable because it was not allowed under a specific term of the Indian Act, or the authority wasn't given. Either the Band Council didn't approve it, or the Governor and Council authority wasn't given, or in fact, even the minister's authority wasn't given. And we found in many cases, just things they were spending money on willy-nilly. You guys had no control of those funds. Canada in the historical just took it and spent it, things that they shouldn't have been spending it on. So that report has been received. And it is now, Adam and I are working on a claim submission. Adam's doing the initial drafting, but we worked with on other claims like this. So he's right now, we're estimating we should get a claim submission to the Chief and Counsel by the end of this year. Assuming they approve it, we will then submit it to the Minister to Canada for processing under the specific claims policy. And then the same process, 6 months, 3 years, and then hopefully it's accepted for negotiation and we can enter into negotiations. Again, I don't know how much that is. Time will tell, but that's another claim that is being worked on. The third type of claim, there's actually two claims here, as we're finding out as we're going through these processes. So this is relating to that Robertson-Huron litigation that went on. The First Nations that were part of the Robertson-Huron Treaty took Canada to court. They're being paid the $5, just like you're being paid the $5, the annuity every year. And they went to court and they claimed that, well, that $5 should have been growing over the years. It shouldn't still be $5 today. This is other people have tried this in the past and they failed, but in this case, the First Nations in the Robertson Huron Treaty, they won. The courts agreed, and over time they ended up settling, $10 billion for in their area. Well, so chances are every treaty First Nation has the same kind of claim, okay? That $5 should have been growing over the years. It shouldn't still be $5 today. And what I'm told in talking with people that are in Ottawa is that Canada is going to settle these claims. It's just a matter of time. I mean, there's lots of First Nations that are in, just like you guys, getting that $5. And, how that $5 is going to grow, I don't know. It'll grow probably by some inflation factor. But even at inflation, I would expect that $5 is probably $500 or $600 today, in today's dollars. So this is not going to be an insignificant claim. It is going to be, a significant. We're going to look at every year from 1871, 1872, 1873. So what we did is we retained Joan Holmes and Associates again to do some research, and in fact we just got their draft report towards the end of October. I was reviewing it over the weekend and provided my comments that Adam is now looking at and will eventually get back to Joan Holmes and Associates. What we found, or what they found, and we're finding this with other First Nations that they're doing research on, there's the $5 annuity, but we also found, and they're finding that many annuities were just never paid over the years. And in your case, you're no different. Lots of annuity payments, though there was arrears that just never got paid. And in your case, the number is around $23,000, $24,000. So that's a lot of $5, right? That's a lot of $5 that were never paid. So that's a separate type of claim than increasing the $5. Okay. Now, in your case, you have a band member that has commenced a class action suit in the courts against Canada for all Treaty 1 Indians over this $5 that it should have been increasing. Okay. And Roseau has, as I understand it, the previous council, has passed a resolution supporting that band member and taking that claim forward. I don't know where it's at, but that's going on. And right now, there's no intent to go otherwise for Roseau not to support your band member in that claim. The point of this research, though, is that you're going to need to know how many people should have been paid that $5 or whatever it is every year. This report does that. We'll feed that to the lawyers that are working on this class action suit, and they'll have that available for them when they're going through the court process. And at some point, you're going to need to know that anyways, because when you talk with Canada, if they're going to negotiate something, you're going to need to know, well, how much more should we have been paid each year as we're moving forward. The other one is, as I say, those missed payments. That's a separate claim, and until we haven't got the final report. But once we do, I will go back to the council and I say I think you should bring a separate claim forward. Now it's not going to be a big claim, but it's still going to be some compensation. Okay, all those $23,000 got to be present value to the current. I'm not talking tens of thousands. Is probably going to be in the millions of dollars, but what that millions is, I don't know right now. Okay, so we got the report. Once it's finalized, we'll, assuming the council wants to move forward with that missed payment, we will Adam and I will prepare a claim submission, and it'll go to council for approval. And we'll also work with the lawyers that are working on the class action lawsuit, and feed them the report and the information we have. I don't know if some of you went out to the reserve when the representative from Joan Holmes and Associates were here. She was out interviewing some of the elders and some of the other band representatives about treaty and understanding of treaty. That was just done in September. Some of that information is now starting to make its way into the reports, and is being used. And part of that is in the annuities. Some of that information that they got from the representatives, the elders, is going to be helpful for that class action lawsuit. So, that's a good thing. So that's something that will be helpful for the lawyers that are working on that claim. Now, doesn't mean every Treaty 1 First Nation is going to agree to go through that process. And in fact, you don't even have, you can pull out of it at any time and you can go on your own. That'll be up to you guys. But that's not the intent right now. As far as I know, the council is still wanting to support the class action lawsuit when it comes to the $5. Okay. Same process. Once it gets filed, you know, the minister then has the 6 months and then the 3 years, no different than the others. The last one we're working on is, we call it a treaty land expansion claim. And you guys are unique. Treaty 1 is unique compared to other treaty areas. Possibly Treaty 2, I don't know a lot about the history of Treaty 2, but when the negotiations were going on for Treaty 1 back in 1871, one of the chiefs stood up and said to Canada, you know, you're going to allow us to have 160 acres per family of 5, 32 acres per person. And the chief stood up and says, well, what about when our population grows? And that 32 acres is no longer sufficient to support our population. And the response that the chief got back from the negotiator from Canada was, if your population grows and your land base is too small, we'll give you more land. Now, it was stated in a little bit different terms than that, but that's the gist of it. You're the only treaty that was ever said to. And in my view, that's a claim. You have a claim, and your claim to land should be a growing claim. As your population increases, you should be getting those 32 acres for your population. It should go on infinity based on this promise, this statement. And those statements, I mean, it's not in the written treaty. You won't find that anywhere in Treaty 1 text. Doesn't matter. If something was promised to the First Nations, the courts are prepared to enforce those promises, even though they may be verbal. So I've encouraged the council to look at this and to move forward with a claim. And again, Joan Holmes and Associates, they've been retained and they're doing research. We've seen a draft report this summer. Adam and I reviewed it and provide comments back. We're waiting for the final report. It was scheduled under the contract that Roseau, the First Nation, has with Joan Holmes and Associates. It was scheduled to be delivered the beginning of this month, so they're a little bit late. So hopefully it'll be soon. I know they were waiting to do the interviews that they did because some of that they wanted to incorporate into this report. And I don't know what the elders and representatives said about this, but we'll find out when we get the report back from Joan Holmes and Associates. Again, assuming, and the draft report confirmed what I suspected. And so once we get the final report, I'll again go back to the council and say, I think we should do a claim submission and have it submitted. This is a big deal. This is a unique claim. And I think it's a really good claim. Okay, so that's the update. And again, any questions, happy to answer any questions you have. I know they want you to, if you're asking questions, they wanted to do it with the mic. Rachel will bring it around because they want to make sure people online can hear what the question is.
The reason why we want you to say it on the microphone, if you have questions, so the people live can hear what you're asking, and then he'll answer and they'll be able to hear. So, yeah. Any questions?
Yeah, I sold in and we gotta go. Yeah. He's gonna.
Good afternoon. It's not gonna be question, it's gonna be a commentary of when this whole thing started to roll along, Cows and Ploughs, I didn't even know what to think about it. My thoughts, because I had a couple of setbacks over the couple of weeks, but I just keep thinking, why now? I'm not taking anything away from the counsel, the lawyer, but what I'm referring to is we've had 2 trusts already. The TLE 1903 hasn't really done a lot. I'm not here to criticize the council, but I'll respect you in terms of what you're duly elected to do, but you also have to turn that to me as a band member who should speak freely. I'm not for this Cows and Ploughs. I was doing a little bit of research through the internet, and I came across what is called the peasant farmer policy. Is dated 18, and it makes reference to indigenous farmers. Lots of restrictions there already, and it was actually a policy that, in my opinion, the way I read it, was something put in places to keep our people down again. And growing up in my grandparents' place, my great-grandparents and my grandparents, Jim and Madeline, I only observed one farmer in a Roseau, the late Alfred Patrick. And we talk about agricultural benefits. I listened yesterday to, and I appreciate Rachel and whoever else put it on. A couple of comments stuck out, rained out for me, and was my relative Joe Sini. Why are we doing this when we're supposed to be sovereignty? Yes, it's good to get money. I love money, but why now? I think, because we have 2 trusts, particularly in 1903, and I appreciate Joe again, and I convey her that trust we can never touch, but whatever comes out of an interest, it doesn't change the community. Like I don't live in the community, but when I go there, I have a sense of connection, but I see there's nothing being developed, and as each election comes and goes, it seems like there's more infighting. And everybody that, we try and blame each other. No, it's the money. The money doesn't do anything. It's the people that fight over that money. They want this. I'm a little disappointed because it seems like, you have to go through so much to ask for something. Monies are depleted so fast, and I'm not going to open the door here for a big discussion, but we have enough money, I feel. I just don't think it's being utilized properly. Yeah, we have a membership of 2,700, thereabouts, I guess. But when I read this, okay, just to make a couple of quick points. Here's one. Who owns 90% land in Canada? 89% of Canada's land is owned by the Crown. How much land does Indigenous own in Canada? 5%. You see how the numbers are tipped against us? I never want to be a farmer, but when I drive around, in my travels in the summer, I see all these farmlands, and sorry to say, they're all white-owned. Why is that? Again, I'm not going to tell the council members what to do if they want to proceed ahead with this and with using the lawyer, but I feel that we have 2 trusts and nothing's really moving along. The TLE is supposed to be treaty land entitlement. 1903 was supposed to bring 160 per family, and I heard a comment through another elder in Roseau on the video. One farmer said, well, he got 160 for one person and 160 for a family of 5. Like, the numbers are just skewed, and if this cows and plows becomes a thing of reality, I'm still gonna vote against it. I voted against the 1903. I think we have a lot of revenue. You know, we're always here, let's work together. Okay, well, let's work together. You know, we have a trust, was it 85 million? 86? You know, let's start making some cuts here. You know, that's what you do. If you really want to move ahead, you got to look at your overall budget. Start making some cuts here and start setting aside some money to do these things. Let's start teaching our community about our history. Like, how many of us know about our history? How many know about who we're related to in Roseau? You know, and I'm looking at, and it was renamed a couple of times. So again, I didn't want to really want to come and say anything, but I'm a person that can't just sit quiet. I really hope that people, you know, do your own research. Yeah, internet is not 90, 110%, but it's got some good factual information there. I'm not telling anybody here to follow a suit with me, but 2011 is when the 1903, the inception of it, and it's 2024, and what has it done? I'm not blaming the council. What has it done? So, and I really appreciate my relative Joe. Like, I really applaud her for years. She stands up for what she believes in. And I'm not trying to build her up, but that's our women, you know, our women. Where would we be without our women? And I really, I'm not, again, I don't mean no disrespect to the lawyer, Terry and Rachel, but I don't feel the cows and plows is going to be beneficial, because we should go talking about treaty money. Let's get that $5 up to today's standards, you know. $5. I could remember what I used to get $5 when I was growing up. I used to come back with some change in my pocket, but
Candies.
yeah. But nowadays, you $5, you're lucky you can get a bag of chips. But again, I just needed to say something. I didn't want to make it too long, but I've been doing some research, and this government tactic is always about them. The numbers, if the numbers are not in favor of them, they go and do their homework and they put those numbers back into them. And we're the first peoples of this country. It's well documented, and we're the poorest nation. So thank you again for hearing me out.
Anyway, any more questions or statements?
I just wanted to make a comment. I'm aware of the policy he's talking about. That was done by, he was the Deputy Superintendent General of Indian Affairs at the time. This is going back into the late 1800s, and it was, his name is Hayter Reed. And what happened is, in many cases, the First Nations were doing very good at agriculture. They were, in fact, outproducing the white farmers off the reserve. And the white farmers didn't like that, because they couldn't compete. They were having problems competing with these Indian farmers. And so what Canada did, they did a couple of things. They did what they called the pheasant farming policy. That was Hayter Reed. And he says, well, we're not going to give them proper implements. We're not going to give them thrashers, and we're not going to give them this. We're not going to give them that. We're going to give them hoes and rakes, and we're going to start them from the beginning. Well, that was just to put you down. The other thing they did is they put a permit system in place where an Indian farmer couldn't sell any goods. Well, not even a farmer, any producer of any product couldn't sell, an Indian couldn't sell products without going to the local Indian agent to get permission. And then in most cases, the money that was received from that load of grain or whatever it was that was delivered to the elevators, it went back to the agency office. And in many cases, the band member never saw that money. It was just simply gone. And, you know, you can envision, you know, your ancestors at the time, how dejected they would have been going through this process, working their butts off. You know, farming's not easy. Working their butts off, planting the crop, growing the crop, harvesting the crop, delivering it, and then seeing nothing from it or very little out of it. And that was unfortunate. That's a different claim. I think that's a good claim. And I know in one area, they've actually brought a claim like that forward. So, I mean, that's possibly a claim for the future that you guys can pursue if you want to pursue. Yeah, so I just thought I'd mention that. And that's a good point. I mean, very good point.
The other fees that they put down the farmer was they would, okay. They would, as soon as they turn, like that happened to our grandfather, Sam Aiden. As soon as he turned 65, the government came along and took everything. The land, and they even took away the method of farming. The way Anishinabe farmer would farm would accommodate the animals, particularly the bees. We had our own honey. We had our own potatoes. You know, not just once a year. Our ancestors were good farmers, and they because they knew the environment, they knew what to plant where. As soon as his farm got taken away, and that includes the land, got taken away from him. He lost everything, and I still feel sometimes. I just feel that they should be accommodated, and you should know how hard they fought. You know, back in the day, there was no such thing as welfare, and baby allowance. They had to feed and fend for themselves, and they did a good job of it. You should send me wedge every day for your life, not only just to Creator, but for what your ancestors, the way they were trying to be independent of. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that.
That's, you know, and I've heard those comments. You know, I've worked for 50 or 60 different First Nations. I've heard those same comments many times. You know, in one case, and it was Fishing Lake. I was sitting around the boardroom of the council. We were having lunch, and we were just chatting one day, and this one guy says, well, my grandfather sent a load of grain to the elevator. We don't know what happened to that load of grain. It just disappeared. You know, I mean, those stories are all over the place, and it's unfortunate. Yeah.
I'm just going to keep my question specific to the presentation. You had mentioned that there'd be part of that formula was 2/3 present day population and a third historic population. What is meant by the third historic population? Are we talking about people that are no longer with us?
Yeah, you're talking about what was the population of Roseau at 1871? Okay. Yeah. And the same thing, I know, and I probably should have mentioned it on the annuities claim. I mean, this is not just for current people. It's going back, you know, everybody should have been paid this additional amount over and above the $5, whatever it is. We're including everybody, you know, whether you're living or not living. Every past member of Roseau will be included in that calculation.
Just to inform the ones that are on the online, that was Cecil James, former council member a while back. So we just want to make sure that we just want to make sure that you know who you are. But when you he's saying about the, some of the things about the treaty. Very, very important for us to remember. The treaty was signed in 1871. At the time, Roseau River was the largest population in Treaty Number 1. There was 4 bands at the time that the treaty was signed. There was Peguis, what is called Saline, or today, but Fort Alec is what they were called then. There was the Portage bands, and then there was Roseau River, which was one-ish ZB, but you know, we were called the Pemmican bands at the time. Anyway, what I wanted to expand on was that the treaty says very clear, 160 acres per family of 5. That's the treaty. But under the Indian Act, all of our lands are held by the chief and council. So one of the things I want to make sure is that we get out of the Indian Act system, where you end up and go back to treaty, where you have some land. And that's what I keep asking people, where's your land? Well, I don't have any. It's with the chief and council. So the benefits of the land should be flowing to individuals, should be flowing to families. As you look at this place here, Long Plains First Nation, they have a hotel. They've converted this land to reserve status. And, you know, so you can see the benefit of this. You know, they do make some money, but they're not finished. Roseau River settled in the TLE, Treaty Land Entitlement, that was in 1996. In the 1996 settlement, we were purchased and converted to reserve status 16,218 acres. That was done in 1996. So far, we've only converted about 4,000 acres of land to reserve status out of that TLE. So we're not getting the benefit of the 16,218 acres. And it was Reese Jones, that was a lawyer that did that one in 1996. Then we have, you talked about the 1903 surrender that was done when I was chief in 2011. We settled for $80 million, and that was Ploughs that did that. So it takes a long, hard time to get something done. On the 1903 surrender, we went to the people, they voted in to get $5,000 per man, woman, and child out of the 1903 surrender. And that was done. But we want to make sure that when we're going forward, we all agree in regard to cows and ploughs or any of the other claims that Stephen is talking about. No. Not everybody agrees on it, and some people will vote against it. Some 110 people voted against the 1903 surrender, 2011. But the vast majority of 927 people that voted voted for it. That's why we got it settled. Whatever the cows and ploughs that he comes up with, Stephen Ploughs, on that settlement, it's going to take a lot of work for him to do that. But he'll bring it that whatever he can get Canada to agree on, he'll come forward as a settlement package that comes from Canada and our negotiators. He'll come to the reserve, chief and council, and the chief and council will look at it. We don't have authority to approve the cows and ploughs or any of the other settlements that he has. It has to come to the people. So you want to vote it down, vote it down.
When you guys vote, Are you gonna be including everybody in that band membership list?
There's 2,800 people. There's about, in the tribe, in the band, in the membership list. Of course, the ones that are under 18 don't get a right to vote, but the adults, everybody has a right to vote.
Are you gonna include the people that are in the States? Are you gonna include my daughter that lives in Germany? She is a registered band member. How are you gonna send her the information and get her vote?
Well, we do that, we did that with the 1903 standard.
No, you didn't. My daughter didn't even have nothing, she didn't even know about it. And she still doesn't even, she knows that she has $5,000, but she doesn't even know what the hell it's for.
Well, under the all settlements, and this is a requirement from Canada, this has nothing to do with Roseau. This is, Canada will require this. They set out rules that you have to follow in following this ratification vote. And every member has a right to vote. But, of course, the First Nation needs to know their address, or else they're not going to get the information. Now, I don't know in your daughter's case whether they knew her address or not. If they did, she would have been mailed a information package and had the right to vote by mail. That's just the way it's set up by Canada. They want to ensure that band members have the right to vote, to have their say, and are informed. They will require me and or Adam to come and do information and go through the settlement agreement with you, go through what is being proposed to do with the money, and you'll get the right to vote. And it's every band member over the age of 18 and older.
So there's, like,
Brings me to
Steve,
my next question, our band membership. This brings me back to my next question, our band membership clerk. How are they gonna get this information? Like, how are you gonna get all these people from the States?
So I would say that you would, as everybody in this room, you have families, you have kids, and you have people that live in the US, Germany, where, so forth. Then get their address and submit it to us at Chief and Counsel office, and that's how they'll know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Any more questions?
I have a question. Oh,
One over here too. You had a question? We'll start there and then we'll come back.
Here's Cecil. Cecil's still waiting for his question. Here's Cecil. No, well, let him go first to him.
Okay. We have one question over here too after.
So we'll get Cheryl.
To just ask two questions and go. My second question is in regards to a possible change in government. I mean, I said this on social media, everybody's waiting for cows and plows. And the reality is, with the way things have turned out the past couple of years with the federal government, there could be a change in government. We could be looking at a majority progressive conservative government. And it's more, I guess it's more of a comment than anything, but I guarantee you that progressive conservative government will slow play everything that comes to their table in regards to claims from First Nations people. So let's not hold our breath. Like, I mean, the question I basically had was, what are the odds of us getting approval before an election? Like you've been part of many different claims. What, in your experience, how does that look?
Slim to none. Yeah, simple. They're in the Treaty 6 and the Treaty 4 area right now, and they got a lot of First Nations to go. They don't have to give you a response until March 2027, and so I would say your odds of getting this through before the next election are slim to none. Yeah. We got a question over
So,
here.
Cheryl, you're next.
well, this is just a brief question. For me, as a band member, this is just me, so please don't hate me for it, but I do not approve of this at all. Reason behind that is my late father, Oliver Nelson, was very into treaty, and he warned me that someday that this was gonna come. My concern is, I have children and grandchildren. I'm not one for a quick payout. I wasn't raised that way. My question is, what are the downfalls about this claim? Another question is, are we gonna lose land rights? And if we take the cows and plows? That is my question. Thank you.
The cows and plows is all about fulfilling a term of treaty. It's not about taking away rights. And you're not going to lose your treaty. You're not going to lose your treaty rights. You're going to have Canada fulfill a promise that they should have done a long time ago that they didn't do, okay? And I mean, downside, I don't see a downside. I mean, it's money, that's all it is, okay? I mean,
But that benefit our people, the membership as a whole.
well, you
How
guys,
is that gonna benefit us?
well, you guys will determine that and what you're going to do with the compensation.
Well, that's my big.
Yeah, I mean, it's always the biggest question, right? If we're going to have a settlement, what are we going to do with it?
It's a cash grab and it's quick money, it's a quick payout, and for me, I look at the long run. You know what? There was a lot of people since 1871, when our treaty was signed and whatnot. Those people worked very hard for our rights.
Yep.
And there is no way I'm just gonna say yes to this vote, because I for one, well, I'm a woman, I'm a grandmother, I'm a mother, and I think about my grandchildren's children. That's where my concern comes from, and, you know, like, I really respect, like, you know, and like what they're trying to do to, you know, get this going and whatnot. I do approve of the, I can't even say the word.
Annuity?
Annuities or whatever, yeah. Like, that part I can see happening, because I think we, as a people, have that right, because as, I can't remember who mentioned it, but $5 doesn't go very far nowadays, so, but, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, all good comments, yeah.
So anyway, this is why we come in front of the people to talk about what we're doing. And there is no cows and plows settlement. Nothing's been negotiated. And we don't have some kind of a number, like, so it's basically saying, okay, well, when we get the settlement agreement, we're gonna vote no. Well, we haven't even got to the table yet to give you and taking a look at it. Their Winnipeg, I don't know if you people have heard about the settlement that they had. It was $205 million. They voted on it, and I think I don't know how much they got, about $30,000 per person, or $35,000 per person. So they did vote it, but that's cows and plows. That's different than us, because they're what, Treaty 4, somewhere in there. Anyway, it's a different system. Treaty 4 has 640 acres per family of 5. Treaty 1 is 160. So we're not anywhere near $205 million. We're probably, he doesn't like to give numbers, he's a lawyer.
Oh, I like numbers, believe me.
But he won't say, you know, this is what he thinks we're gonna get. But I can say pretty clearly that for me, in my estimation, we're probably looking on cows and plows, $30 million. That's what I think is going to happen. That's me doing the estimate. I'm not a lawyer, but I know where we're at with 160 acres per family of 5. And then, but the big thing where we're going and what I have Stephen Philippa, one of the best lawyers and claims lawyers in the country, coming here. And he has done some research with Jones Holman and Associates. He's going through the process that's there. And where we're telling you guys is that your biggest settlement is going to be the expansion clause. That's why he's mentioning you have a fantastic opportunity, but is it going to happen tomorrow? No. We're going to take a while to get things done, but we're here just basically, as Chief and Counsel telling you, we're working, we're doing something. Chief's not here, Evan's not here, Jason's not here, just the two of us, so I guess we present what we can. But the lawyer is here, and I keep saying, he's one of the best lawyers in the country. He settled over 40 claims. It's always the same. Lots and lots of questions. Lots and lots of people saying, yes, no, but the reality is that we're not even there yet.
Okay.
I just wanted to make a question to Bud Pierre. You talked about the 86 million in the bank. I just wanted to answer that question. Us as tribal members, we can go back and change that and take that money. We could do it by a referendum vote. Just remember that. We could do it, if that's what you want. I just had to make that question answered from you. We can change that.
We have one question. I drafted your trust agreement. I mean, that was part of the settlement package. I know what it says. The one thing that I will say to you is that you still have $86 million. It's still there. It hasn't gone anywhere. You still have it. And you can amend your trust agreement at any time. In fact, I have not drafted one trust agreement that has not been amended. I mean, you live with it. You work with it. You like this, you don't like that, then, fine, you change it. And you have every right to do that. I mean, it has to go back to the members. The members have to approve it. It can't just be done by chief and counsel, but that's something that you have the right to do. We had a question here.
I just had one more comment before, just so I don't forget it. For the 160 acres for a family of 5, so say if I wanted to get 160 acres with my children and family, where do I go to say that, and who's going to pay for it?
Yeah. Under the treaty, it's not an individual right. It's a collective right.
So when you say collective right, what do you mean by that?
That land is owned by everybody, all band members.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but why does it say 160 for a family of 5, right?
That's how you calculate the amount of land that would be given to the collective.
So that would be to give it to Rosa, but then the family of 5 can go for a certificate of possession? Is that what you're saying?
If that's a possibility, yeah.
See, that's one of the things that people have to understand. It says 160 acres per family of 5. That's a calculation for Treaty Number 1. But in Treaty 3, it went to 640 acres. That's why he's talking about the expansion clause. We're entitled to 640 acres per family of 5. So more than 4 times as much land. But you gotta remember too that Treaty Number 1 is 16,700 square miles of land. It starts on the border, goes around, and if you look at Treaty Number 1, it includes the whole city of Winnipeg. So all of these people here in Winnipeg, 700,000 people, they should be paying to us for the benefit of being in Treaty Number 1. But where do these people pay? They pay to the government of Canada, their taxes, the province of Manitoba, the provincial taxes that they pay, and they pay to municipalities. By the time they're finished, the average white person or person that's living in Treaty Number 1, they're paying 55% of their income to the governments, but they're not paying it to you. You're not getting the benefit of treaty or your lands. So there's a lot that we have to do. It's not simple, but I'm glad to be able to come here and talk to you as people of Roseau River. Are we perfect? Of course not. Are we going to complete everything that we? No. Like I said, Stephen had hair quite a while back before I started this.
I did in 2002, and you guys have gotten rid of all of it, yeah. And we had a question over here. Well, thanks for being so patient, I appreciate it, yeah.
This was related to the comment about the votes and including everybody. I never got included in the vote for the 1903 claim. I was adopted, and I'm learning about all these claims, and I'm finding out like I'm not on the capital list, so I'm not able to get the benefits that all the claims are included in this. So I'm just wondering, is there a system for the people that were adopted to be able to have access to this and to be able to have a right to vote still?
When that 1903 surrender claim was settled and it was being voted on, there was a list of members at that time. And those people who were on that list as members of Roseau were entitled to receive that $5,000. If you were on that list at that time, when it was ratified, 2011, then you would be entitled to that $5,000. If you were not a member at that time, then the way it was set up, you would not be entitled to the payment today, okay? So I don't know when you became a member. You were registered as, then you should have been, and the minors, the payments to the minors were not paid. They were when you turned 18. If you haven't received it, you're entitled to receive it, then go knock on Terry's head and say, where's my $5? Yeah, you're entitled to it, yeah. Okay, yeah. And anybody, that'll be just moving forward. When we go to, if we get the privilege of going to a vote because we're able to get a settlement done, anybody who's on that list at that time will get the right to vote, 18 and over, okay?
I want to add something to that again. Terry just mentioned about how so-called Treaty 1 is all like in Winnipeg and everything. My comment is like, why isn't the focus on things that have already been like that can be to go after these kind of things and then have the mistrust of these claims that are not, they don't feel secure for the people because there's a lot of corruption in Canada, but also like these tasks should be done towards like going after Winnipeg, or like let's talk about Shoal Lake for a minute. I know that's not, but that's still our relatives. Anishinaabe territory is mass. I keep saying that we got to get our minds out of this colonization of borders of these little reserve. Anishinaabe is huge, but instead of like all these land claims that are going through, there's always something that they don't tell the people. There's something hidden under there that will not benefit us in the future, or our children or our grandchildren. Those are the things that we want to hear. We're not hearing those things. We're just hearing, oh, it's all nice, we're going to have lots of money, and oh, you can get that money, you can touch that money. It's bullshit. It's not even happening. And so what are the underneath clause? If just say this clause, Ploughs, whatever it is, just say that people do take it, and I hope they don't, but I understand there's a lot of poverty and addiction, and that's what's going to be making these decisions, which is sad. Yet we're supposed to be the richest people in the world, but we're not. So what are those things that you guys are not talking about? Because everybody's talking surface, but we're not talking in deep. And how does it affect our future? It's not even being said. It's right now, and that's it. Take the money now, and you have a decision. You can have a decision if you want to take the money or not take it. That's up to you. The only one that really benefits, in my eyes, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but the ones that are, you know, you're secure. You're a lawyer, you're secure. You'll always make money off this. It doesn't matter if Roseau doesn't, you don't care if Roseau doesn't take it because you can go to someone else and take it. So I'm just being honest, you know? So what are those hidden things that we're not being told? Really, come on. I'd like to know that.
I got some questions from people who are online, and I'd like to go through those. This one comes from Dustin Thomas. Is it possible to receive another payment from the 1903 trust for the membership? Under the current trust agreement, the capital, no, unless it's amended. If you want to amend the trust agreement, then yes. There's a yearly amount that's coming out. A portion of the interest comes out annually. And under the expenditure bylaw that's in place, because I drafted it, a portion of that money could be used for a per capita distribution. Not all of it, but some of it can be, unless that expenditure bylaw is amended, okay? So hopefully, Dustin, that answers your question. There's a few questions here from Teresa Legault, if I got that right. Is that, no? It's Legautl. Legault, okay. Is there a website that has all this information available to read? Yeah, and hopefully you heard that, Teresa. It's on the Roseau River web page. Go ahead.
rrafn.com.
Okay. And if you can't find it, email me and I'll be happy to share all this, whatever I have with you. The Joan Holmes and Associates research it's thousands of pages in the end with all the historical documents, so it's not a little bit of information. There's a lot of information there. Next one, Teresa had another question. Does Roseau have a database to find out our family names?
Membership clerk.
Membership clerk.
You can call at 204-427-2139 and speak to Barry Antoine. And you can get his information on rrafn.com.
And then the last one from Teresa, how long till a number is given? And I'm assuming she's talking about the cows and ploughs and a settle amount, and I have no answer for that. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine.
What about her comment? You didn't answer it. Was it a question or a statement? Question. Yeah.
I don't have an answer for you on what negatives there are. I don't see any, but I mean, the future is the future.
That's kind of like, that's kind of insensitive to say that.
Well,
it's insensitive because, the people are always brought, they bring up these things all the time, like bringing up claims like that across the lands. But then there's stuff inside there in the future. What is it? What are the bad benefits in the future for our children, like our grandchildren? Is there?
I don't mean to
have like agriculture. Is there? There's losing some rights on agriculture. Is that what's losing?
Nothing. You're fulfilling a treaty right.
But then there's a lot of word that there's something that's going to be lost in the future for our people if they take these claims.
Well, I would disagree, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I mean, these are just settling grievances that should have been, in this case, cows and ploughs. This should have happened a long time ago. If the government had followed through with their promise, all your lives would be better today. Because your people would have had, your ancestors would have had the ability to move forward in a more productive way than what they were allowed to do. So everybody's life would have been better today. All of your lives. Would they have been perfect? No. But they would have been better. So I don't you're not giving up a treaty right. There's nobody saying you're giving up a treaty right. You're holding Canada to account and fulfill a treaty right.
Well, I'm not like, I don't, these treaties that are in place right now are like, they're based on murder and theft. And a lot of them are based on stolen lands and stolen lives. So it's hard to trust anything that comes from the government of Canada. You know, that's, why can't we be honest about that?
And
We're
that's-
being honest about, I'm not questioning, I'm just saying it to
Fair enough.
people hear it.
Fair enough. I didn't live your life, you know, and I understand that. I mean, I've heard that. I mean, I'm not disputing it. But you start somewhere and you move forward.
It's hard for the people to hear these kind of things coming from the privileged. You know, it's untrusting. It's just being honest.
Yeah.
Just remember, guys, this is, you have a freedom to speak and ask questions, so don't think that it's disrespectful. Everybody here has a right to ask and say what they want to say.
Okay, it's gonna be brief. I talked with one of my late uncles. We talked about the 1903 itself. I was given a copy in 2012 at the old sub-office. I was surprised to know that a lot of people didn't have a copy of the 1903. But I go over it, and there's a section toward the end of that agreement says that 1903 can be terminated by order of courts, if that ever should happen. What's left over goes back to the First Nation. My other point is, we're talking about looking ahead here to a Cuesportslive and Ploughs. Me and my late uncle talked about it, but unfortunately he passed away. My question is to you, and I don't have to answer, but we talk about, what was just mentioned by Dustin Thomas about a further per capita. We were under the assumption the 1903, and you clarified it, can be amended where there can be another per capita of 50% of the total trust capital. Is that kind of accurate? If it's amended where a per capita to the membership of Roseau can happen if the membership amends with the help of the chief and counsel and would leave only half of the whatever's in the bank.
You have the right to amend the trust agreement. I have no comment on what percentage. I have no comment on what percentage.
I'm just sharing with me, my uncle,
Yeah.
late uncle talked about
Yeah.
it. But unfortunately, he passed and we never really tabled that, you know, to a recent election. But that's what we were kind of streamlining to, because if we're gonna look at a quick cash thing, to me, logic, with respect to that 1903, what's the big deal if there's only half left over and the other half that's amended is distributed to everybody? I don't see, you still have about 40 million in that account. And the interest is based year to year on what's in that trust capital. The only thing, in my opinion, will be less interest to the CDA annual allotment, whereas everybody, you know, will have some money. But we talk about the calls and calls, it's gonna be the same thing if it's voted in favor. You're gonna get a cash settlement, but for me, right now, I'm looking at the 1903, I would, as a band member, as the current chief and counsel, let's sit down and let's start aligning ourselves to amend that trust so we can have that payment. Why not? It's there already. Thank you.
For me, as a council member, and I was there as chief in 2011, when the 1903 surrender came into place. It was a settlement of $80 million and $600,000 for the expenses. Anyway, at that time, there was a vote of 927 people. 110 people voted against it, that settlement. But we did, you know, one of the things that happened was that we talked to the people, and I was very clear. You know, it could have been very easy to distribute whole lot of that money. It ended up at $5,000 per man, woman, and child. By the time we finished, all of the expenses and everything else like that, that $80 million, $80.6 million ended up, after the expenses and the $5,000 per man, woman, and child, we had $61 million in a capital. And what was said in February 8th on the vote, that 927 people, that we would lock that capital in place for future generations. And that's what we were talking about. It's not now $61 million because we can't grab that money. It is at $86 million with the revenue that came in. And going forward in the next 20 years, when the investment goes in, that $86 million goes in, next 20 years, it's projected to generate another $88 million on the investment. So it's going to be 80 million plus 88 million in the next 20 years. But then, of course, you're going to end up, some of the benefits is going to come back to the community. I would be against me personally, against taking any of that capital out, because it is for future generations. That's what we said about it. We talked about the young people. Where are they going to get their money? And that's what happened in some of the reserves. I mean, Stephen could tell you, there's been some good settlements for some First Nations in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, where the money just went. Now, if you put out that money, and it does get to the people now, within 3 months it'll be all gone. That portion that you provide from that benefits. But if you retain the capital and you are investing in it, it will generate money forever. That's what I'm not in favor of putting out a lot of the capital to us. Because I'm asking you, what are we going to do with the kids? Future generations. So I don't have a problem putting that to the people. This is why we're here. We're here discussing some things. And can we all agree? No. But at least, the information's coming out here. So Stephen, maybe you can give us a little bit of information of some of the other settlements, and some of them have basically been blown away. Some of the other settlements.
Yeah, well, PCDs, per capita distributions, is not a new thing. I sit in many meetings like this, and it's talked about. I'm working for a band in BC. They've made close to 20 different distributions to their members. Some of them are small, Christmas time, a little bit of money at Christmas. Some of them are very large. I can't tell you any more than that, but I mean, they're just going through the same discussion you're going right, about per capita distributions. They have some money, and what are we going to do with it? And there's always a difference of opinion. We got two opinions right here, and that's just the way it is. And I see that. But who knows a gambler band member? Anybody here?
Sitting next to me.
No, I'm not talking gambler. I'm talking about a gambler First Nation. Yeah, well, if you did, then, I can't say any more than that, but you would know what they did. Over my time working over the years in the settlements, the PCDs are going higher. I personally don't see a big benefit, but members, that's what they want, so that's what happens, So, as I said, Canada could care less what you do with your money. That's your business. And you just, as a community, have to figure that out. There's always a balancing act. There's current generations, and there's future generations. And how are you going to address both of those generations? And I don't have an answer for you one way or the other. That's for you guys to decide what you want to do. I will implement whatever you want to have happen. Yeah.
We're opinionated because we care about the future of our grandchildren.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think that that's a really good comment, and I would agree with that comment wholeheartedly.
I'm gonna say it again so that they can hear me. We're opinionated because we care about the future of our grandchildren and those yet to come. That's why we ask these questions. So I'll never stop asking these questions, and I'll never be afraid to say anything.
No, and those are good comments. I can tell you a story, because there's lots been written about per capita distributions. A lot of stuff starting to come out. Lots of it is in the States, but it's flowing up into Canada now. There's been a lot of research done on it. There was one study done, this is in the state of Washington. You know what happens down in the States? They get these big casinos. First Nations, in this case, there was about 20 or 30 First Nations that got together, built a casino in the state of Washington, and they're making lots and lots of money. And they split the money every year. They send out money out to each of the First Nations on an annual basis. Some of the First Nations take that money and they just give it to their members. Some of the First Nations maybe give a little bit to the members on an annual basis, but they keep the rest and they put it into programs and services. And what they're finding is that the communities that are sending the money out, all of it, just handing it out, those communities are way poorer and more poverty than the communities that are keeping most of the money and putting it into programs and services and allowing their members to grow over time. I'm just telling you what I read, okay? And what they're finding is that in the communities where they don't give large per capitas, maybe they give a little bit every year out to the members. What's happening with the children in particular is that they're becoming more educated. They are in school more. They're fed better. And their communities are getting more educated and more sophisticated. And, so this is just things that I read, okay? But I'm going to say I've gone and listened to this kind of stuff multiple times. Every First Nation I work for talks about this. And you have to decide what's your preference. And I don't mean to go one way or the other. I'm not supporting any position in this. I just say, you guys have to decide.
So just for your other comment, but so if we were to take the amendment and do the 40, the half or whatever, right? Just say we took 40 million, well, 46, probably we have to pay the lawyer to amend it and all that, right? Just say 40 million. We would distribute it on the 2,800 tribal members. That would be like almost 14,000 each. Yes. Yeah, so just so you know that kind of calculation. Yeah, so, any more questions?
I just wanted to say a few things, then I have some questions. So communication about these updates and stuff is really good. I'm not on social media, so my mom sends me posts on Facebook because she's on that. And it's good to, I check my emails, so having emails and stuff like that would be really good. So listening to the elders and knowledge sharing, having something regular like that, I think is important. It interests me to hear the elders and people who, have knowledge. That's good, Joe, you too. But I have a story too. My cuckoo told me a story, she was born in 1936, so she said when she was a young girl, she ate skunk. And I looked at her, I'm like, oh, yeah. Why? She said, because that was the only meat they had. Yeah. They weren't given rations, they were taken away. I think she said they were supposed to get flour, sugar, and meat. So that's something I want to share. It gets me mad, I think about that. So, Yeah, it's with the Winnipeg land, I think Dakota Plains or TP, I can't remember, they put in a claim. So they're already jumping on that, and that kind of confused me because I've heard from other people that, the way you had said about that, right? So, yeah, just, again, it's good to have this information. This hasn't been done in a while, so, yeah. I would just like to say, yeah, thanks. Treaty Land Corporation too, updates. I don't know anything about that, so be good to hear more. The research and the facts about the cows and plows. So where is that information? Like, our family wasn't included. We're off reserve. We live in Winnipeg, so again, yeah, that would be good to have.
So we have on the website RRAFN, and usually Doris is on my Facebook, so she always sees everything I post, try to post and tell everybody. But you could get the same documents on rrafn.com. Just go there and then look for the tab Cows and Ploughs Update. We try to post everything on there, even Steven's report, and we're gonna do another report on there. So everything can go on there. You can even download it and put it into your computer and read it later.
I don't think it was updated, like I've been checking, and I can actually try to call like the band office or the sub office.
There, I know, I just sent another copy of the research report out. The research report is just a small part. It's like, I don't know, 80 or 90 pages long, but there's thousands of pages that goes along with that. That's probably not posted on there. And if you want that, send me an email and we'll just figure out some way to get it to you, because you can't send it in a PDF. It's just too large. Yeah. It has to be Dropbox, or it has to be some kind of a mailed out to you through with a stick. Yeah.
And I just remembered something else. So with this, like things can be put in here, right? When you bring that to the membership, you can, people will have their say where, even with the $5, the treaty annuity, how parents can get their children's $5 right now. Like, I wouldn't want to take, if that comes to that, I wouldn't want to take their amount to whatever it is, right? Obviously, so things like that would have to be discussed.
That all has to be discussed, definitely. Yeah.
For that long report, we can put it into 4 sections even, so that you can have the whole document online. We could do that because it's a big document. But we could put it in part 1, 2, 3 like that, and then you guys can read it online, no problem. Also, we're gonna create, if you have children out there or family members, to be on the list, so that when we have stuff going, Amanda's gonna create that list for the website, and then you guys can just go on that list and even update us, email it, or update all your contact information, and we'll keep it in the office in a folder, so that if things come up like this with Stephen, at least we'll have some of the addresses and the phone numbers and make sure it's up to date. We'll try that way.
I'm going to warn you, though, if you look at those historical documents, it's going to make you mad.
Well, it does.
Yeah, it does. The language in them is reprehensible. I mean, it was those, Indians. I mean, it was bad. Yeah.
We want to include more stories, right?
Yeah.
Like I said,
Yeah.
I didn't hear my family's story. It's not in there.
I think one of the things, though, that I want to make sure that people understand, when we settled, and Steve helped settle the 1903 surrender, we'll go back in the background. It talks about the 1903 surrender. Well, what happened in 1903 was that they forced the Roseau River to relinquish 12 sections of land. And it's on the east side of the reserve. So that went to Emerson and people in farmers and stuff like that bought up that land. Our people resisted it. They did not want to sell that land. Eventually, they got forced into it. What was the number that they got for the land? 1903? 12 sections of land.
That they were paid for it?
Yeah.
I can't remember, Terry.
Eventually,
Like I was around 116, 100, but I'm going from memory, yeah.
no. Basically, what happened was that the farmers paid for the land, but they didn't, a lot of them didn't pay for that land until the last payment was 1946.
Yeah.
And that was when they paid for that 12 sections of land. But the government took the land. And you gotta remember that Roseau River is in the Red River Valley. It's the absolutely best land in the country. It's black land, you can grow anything in it. And Roseau River was, our ancestors were being told, well, if you don't, take the 12 sections of land, we're gonna settle you, we're gonna remove you. And they were supposed to move us to somewhere in northeast of Saguin. That's where they were going to move our people. And, they were forced to. But you gotta remember when this got settled, $80.6 million, $5,000 was given out. We ended up at $61 million in 2011. So September 2011, that's how much we had, was $61 million in the capital. It's now grown to $86 million. So in 13 years, your capital has grown $25 million. And in the next 20 years, if it stays the same way it is, the reserve will end up with $88 million when you invest that money. That was the projection. 20 years, you'll end up with the $88 million for future generations. So it works. It's hard to understand this because a lot of us don't have money. We don't do investments. But Ploughs did a hell of a good job. That's why I'm telling you, having Stephen Ploughs here working on our other claims is going to benefit us. And may not all agree, but at least we've got to be working on something. Otherwise, we're going to stay put. All right, thank you.
One last thing I want to say here is that we need to get this tribal membership list updated. People that are deceased need to be taken off our tribal membership list. Sneakily going, just put it this way, people are, this last election, I could have got anybody off the street to get my son to vote, him being deceased. My daughter-in-law, I could have came back because you guys weren't taking IDs. I could have came back in a different suit and said, oh, I'm so-and-so, I'm here to vote. So this tribal membership needs to get our deceased people off the list because that can be used. There's people that are sneaky that will say, oh, I want a mail-in ballot for this. Just something to think about.
Any more questions, guys, in regards to the cows and plows? If not, we will.
I don't know if it's a question.
Oh, hang on, we need to hear it.
Everybody's got
But it's like, for me, it's like, not so much what's going on, it's, or trying to break up the trust or whatever, that's not, I don't have that answer for that, but the question I have is, where do we go from here? We have lots of claims. We have lots of money. It's in all different types of trusts and I'm just drives me crazy about some of the things that we have. We have the land that we can buy, but no resources to buy it. We can buy up to almost 35 square miles of land. The only only ones that we got converted were some of the trust land from the CLE, and that was from some farmland, and the 75 acres, or 74 acres. For me, that's the question. I said, like, if we get some more claims in and stuff, I don't know what the process is. I'd like to see some development, but we keep arguing amongst ourselves. That's just my point. I'd like to see some things done. I'd like to see us get into some economic stuff. And look at Capian. It's sitting there for a few years. It can't do anything because there's no money. They don't have the investment people that are willing to invest in it. And we talk about Red Sun. I hear a whole bunch of stuff about Red Sun. There's 70 odd acres left. Why can't we stop that? I don't know, that's just my point of view. I'd like to see some things done. But that's, I don't want to complain. I just want to find some answers. I'd like to see us. I like some good things. We had, what is it, 24, 25 graduates last year? That is, to me, that's something. Our young people are going to school. My grandson got three A pluses, 3 A's just this year. So those are things I'm grateful for. But I'd like to see more of this work with, we've got lots of claims. That's just my point anyway.
Here comes Cecil James. That's Cecil James.
Hello. I agree with you. You know, we got all sorts of claims, all sorts of money, all sorts of trust monies. But we had a presentation last year at the, I think it was the meeting place down on Smith Street over there on York and Smith. And our trust account manager was, it seemed like he was bragging, oh, we have, we hold over 50 trusts, like 400, like 800 million or something like that in trust. And all those communities ever see is the interest. So when we start looking at developing trusts or whatever the thing is that we're going to develop for all these claims that are coming in, we should look at directly investing into our own communities. Like Capion's coming up, Jim said there is no money there for that. People don't want to invest over there. Like if let's say we come in with 100 million, it's going to sit in trust. We'll get maybe 4 or 5% of that for a year. We'll still have 100. We'll still have 100, 200 housing backlog in the community. We'll just build the damn houses, man. Develop Highway 6. Develop in the community and stop locking that money away in trust. Because otherwise, it's going to benefit communities, not Roseau River, not First Nation community. It's going to be invested in Canada at large. So I encourage whoever is on council to definitely look at a different way of developing these trusts so that it goes directly into our community. Otherwise, we'll be sitting here twiddling our thumbs in 10 years.
Thank you, everybody, for your questions, and we're gonna close in prayer. If anybody has any more questions, just, I don't wanna forget you guys. Nobody? Going once, going twice? Just kidding. So Helen, can you close our prayer?
Services making with restraint. Thanks, God. I give thanks for this day. I give thanks for life. And I give thanks to all my relatives that are here today and that hear us. May our decisions be the right decision, and may we stay strong and united together.
All right, so it looks like that's going to conclude our coverage. Thank you. Yeah. That's going to conclude our coverage here from the WYNDHAM Garden Inn in Winnipeg, Manitoba. If you're looking to get some coverage for your events, you can message me, Rod Arriagada, via email at rod_Arriagada_204@yahoo.com. Let me know how it is I can help you. I'll do my best to deliver exactly what it is that you were looking for in the service. And okay, I guess that's going to conclude the meeting. We will see you guys next time around, whenever that may be. There's a lot of stuff to think about, a lot of stuff to consider. Good luck moving forward with your decision making, and we'll see you guys again, like I said, next time around. And we're going to go out the same way that we came in with the intro. All right, and as I said, that will conclude this community meeting on Wednesday, the 13th of November, 2024. Cows and Ploughs claims update. Make sure that if you guys are watching this, you share the stream with family members on YouTube. You can just copy, you can go to share, copy the link, and then you can text people the link, and then they can just automatically go on there. You don't need to have a YouTube account to go on YouTube to watch this meeting. You do need to have an account on Facebook, and a lot of people just don't want to do it. So if you want to share it, best way to do is just go to the YouTube channel, find the stream, click the share option, then copy the link, and then you can paste that link onto messages or Messenger or whatever, and then you can get a hold of your community members that way. All right, that's it for now, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys again next time. Have a good day and night, everyone. Cheers.